The royal box at Wimbledon holds rows of green wicker chairs. On the second Saturday of July, one chair stays empty longer than the rest. A steward checks the nameplate against his clipboard, then checks it again. Somewhere in a building she will never enter, a document already carries her name. The document concerns visibility. It measures column inches, broadcast minutes, the slow arc of a child's face across a decade of front pages. One line compares the attention now gathering around her to the extraordinary attention once directed at her grandmother, Princess Diana. Once that sentence exists on paper, it cannot be unwritten. Charlotte is 11 years old, and she has just become a subject of institutional calculation. The people who wrote that document are not cruel by temperament. They are planners, the same kind of careful professionals who plan state visits and coronations, and the exact minute a flag should be raised. To them, a child's growing fame is simply another variable to manage. It is no different to them from managing a currency or a border. Diana once sat in rooms like this herself, watched long before she understood what watching meant. She was 19 when the cameras first found her, 20 when the machine decided her face belonged to the public rather than to herself. Nobody in that first year explained the terms to her. She simply became visible, and visibility once granted is almost impossible to take back. Diana herself once sat in the royal box as a new bride, barely older than a student. She waved to a crowd that had already decided who she was going to be. The papers loved her instantly and completely, the way a fire loves dry wood. Nobody then used the word institution for what was happening to her. They simply called it fame, and called it flattering, and looked away from the cost. The royal box has held 4 generations of watching. Kings and queens have sat here, and brides, and now a girl who has not yet lost every baby tooth. The box does not choose who sits in it. The calendar does. Centre Court in July smells of cut grass and sunscreen. The crowd hums before it roars, thousands of voices settling into their rows. Charlotte sits beside her brothers, her spine straight, her hands folded in her lap. Her dress was chosen with the cameras in mind, though she does not know that yet. She only knows the seat is hard, and the sun is warm on her arms. Her mother stands at the net, trophy in hand, poised in the way the role requires. Charlotte watches her with the stillness children learn early, long before anyone explains why. The institution watches the child watching. Nobody in the crowd notices the second gaze. It is patient. It is procedural. It never blinks. The machine has a logic of its own, and the logic is not cruel by design. Royal visibility funds royal relevance, year after year, appearance after appearance. Public affection is the institution's oldest currency, and children have always been part of the ledger. Diana understood this long before anyone sat her down and explained it plainly. The institution would say, if it ever spoke plainly, that it is only doing what it has always done. A monarchy without visible heirs is a monarchy without a future anyone can picture. Every generation has supplied a new face for the public to attach itself to, and for now, that face is turning out to be Charlotte's. This is not new to the family, even if it feels new to her. Every young royal eventually learns that the public's affection and the public's appetite are the same thing wearing different names. Some manage the weight of it well. Others do not survive it at all, not in any way that leaves them whole. The public rarely intends any of it as cruelty. Most people watching a girl in a royal box feel only warmth, only curiosity, only the ordinary wish to see a child grow up well. It is the accumulation that becomes the danger, not any single glance or photograph, not any single kind word offered by a stranger in a crowd. William understands the ledger differently. He was 15 when he walked behind his mother's coffin, eyes fixed forward, jaw locked against the cameras waiting along the route. He learned that day what the machine costs a child when nobody stands between her and it. He made himself a private rule that morning, one he has never had to say aloud. He remembers the sound most of all, a low, continuous murmur from a crowd trying and failing to stay silent. He remembers the weight of his shoes on the tarmac, each step measured, timed to his father's and his brother's beside him. He was not allowed to cry, not there, not with so many lenses trained on his face. He learned, before he was old enough to name the lesson, that grief and performance can occupy the same hour. Charlotte has never met her grandmother. She knows her only from photographs on a shelf and a name spoken gently at certain times of year. Yet the institution has already decided the two of them belong together, in the same sentence and the same comparison. It has already begun the same slow calculation of what a woman's face is worth to the public. The wound was never Charlotte's to inherit, and she inherited it anyway. After Wimbledon, the pattern does not announce itself. There is no memo. There is no press release. There is no single decision anyone can name. There is only a calendar, quietly filling with appearances a girl of 11 never chose and was never asked about. In an office with no royal insignia on the door, someone updates a spreadsheet of upcoming appearances. The list is sorted by age, by likely public interest, by anniversary dates that matter more to institutions than to children. Nobody in that room dislikes Charlotte. Most of them have never met her. They are simply doing their jobs, the way people always are when a system produces harm nobody intended. The calendar fills with small, ordinary things that add up to something larger. A school run photographed from a fixed point across the street. A formal portrait released for a birthday, chosen from dozens of frames by people Charlotte has never met. A seat at a state occasion, assigned months in advance by someone calculating exactly how much of her the public should see this year. Catherine walks her daughter through these mornings the way any mother would, straightening a collar, checking a hemline, saying something only Charlotte can hear. But the mornings now include a third presence neither of them invited. The institutional calendar sits between them like a chaperone that never speaks. Within days, the coverage changes shape. Headlines that once read simply about a girl at Wimbledon begin to read something else. Commentators reach for the easiest comparison available, and the easiest comparison is always Diana. The machine did not force this shift. The public did it willingly, hungrily, the way it always has. Photographers who once waited outside for William now wait for his daughter instead. A single image of Charlotte laughing becomes worth more than one of her father speaking at a podium. The economics of attention have quietly shifted onto a child's shoulders, and nobody voted on it. Catherine notices the shift before anyone briefs her about it formally. She notices it in the way a new photographer's badge appears at events that used to draw only a handful. She notices it in the specific hunger of certain questions shouted from behind barriers, no longer about the tournament at all. She says nothing in public, but she begins making small adjustments of her own, quietly, the way mothers do. For a season, the comparison stops being a whisper. Commentary begins calling her the next Diana, quietly at first, then constantly, in print and on screen. Charlotte does not read the papers. She does not need to. She can feel the eyes, because she has always been able to feel the eyes. Online, the comparison spreads faster than any newspaper could manage alone. Strangers post the two photographs side by side, adding hearts, adding warnings, adding predictions about a future none of them can actually see. Some mean it kindly, wanting to protect a child they have never met. Others mean it as spectacle, the way spectacle has always followed this family across a full century. Magazine covers place her face beside archival photographs from decades earlier. That was the year the world first fell for a shy young woman in a borrowed coat. Editors do not need to explain the juxtaposition. Readers complete the comparison themselves, the way audiences always do when handed two faces separated by time and told where to look. This is the near victory the machine has been building towards since the document was first written. Not a scandal, not a crisis, just a slow reclassification, in which a daughter becomes a strategy without anyone deciding to make her one. The final point ends with a shot that clips the line, and for a half second the entire crowd seems to hold its breath together. Then the sound arrives all at once, a wall of noise breaking over the court. Charlotte's ears ring faintly under the volume of it. She has never heard anything quite this loud from this close. Back on centre court, the crowd rises as one body. Thousands of people come to their feet at once, and the sound rolls across the grass like weather. The air is thick and warm, and the smell of strawberries drifts up from the stands below. Charlotte's shoulders draw back without her deciding to draw them back. Her mother stands below, trophy in hand, composed and steady under the noise. Some of the applause bends towards Charlotte's own seat, and she can feel it happening. Her throat tightens, her fingers press together in her lap. She does not know why the attention has begun to divide itself between the woman holding the trophy and the girl watching her hold it. The institution watches the child watching. This time it is not simple observation. It is rehearsal. For the day the ovation belongs to her and no one else. For one small moment, though, before the photographers find their angle, Catherine looks up and finds her daughter's eyes in the crowd. It is not a practiced look. It is simply a mother checking on her child, the oldest instinct in any royal family or any family at all. Charlotte's chin lifts slightly, and something in her face settles. Whatever the institution is calculating, this part of the afternoon still belongs only to them. Photographs from that afternoon travel fast. One shows Charlotte mid-glance, caught between the crowd and her mother, and it runs beside an old photograph of Diana at almost the same age. Nobody had to write the caption for readers to feel the comparison lock into place. The positioning was never announced. It simply happened, frame by frame, the way these things happen now. A photographer is given very specific instructions before the next official portrait. The angle recalls an old photograph without anyone having to say so aloud. The expression is coaxed rather than commanded, the background chosen for what it will not distract from. Charlotte sits for it patiently, the way she has been taught to sit for most things. She does not know she is being compared to anyone. She only knows to smile when someone tells her the light is right. The punishment the audience wants is not a person. No decree, no signature, no single hand to blame. The punishment, if it comes, is procedural. A committee somewhere continues to plan a girl's public life while she sits in a box built for adults. She is learning how to hold her face for cameras she cannot see. William and Catherine still decide how much of Charlotte the institution receives, and for now that is not nothing. They choose the schools, the guarded corners, the days with no cameras at all. But the price of that choice is constant vigilance, a watchfulness that never fully rests. It does not rest at breakfast, on holiday, or in the quiet after a door closes. He cannot control what happens when Charlotte turns older, when the choices about her own visibility stop being his to make. He cannot control how the public's memory of Diana keeps resurfacing at each anniversary, at each documentary, at each unearthed photograph, timed for maximum attention. He can only manage what is directly in front of him, one appearance, one calendar entry, one Saturday at a time. William keeps some doors closed that the institution would prefer open. He has said no to certain interviews before they were even fully proposed. He has kept whole categories of Charlotte's life, the ordinary Tuesdays, the friends, the small failures, entirely out of the grid. It is not everything. It is what he can manage. The same offices that once calibrated Diana's visibility are calibrating Charlotte's now, updated only in method, not in purpose. New titles for old habits, new procedures for the same rota of photographers. The people have changed generations over, but the function has not changed at all. It never needed cruelty to work. It only ever needed time. The institution watches the child watching. It has watched this way for longer than anyone currently serving it has been alive, patient enough to wait for children not yet born. It began its calculations on Diana at 20. It has begun them on Charlotte at 11, 9 years earlier in a life, because the machine has learned that earlier is easier. William walked behind his mother's coffin at 15. Charlotte is 11 now. 4 years sit between those two ages, and 4 years is the margin the institution is already counting on. It is not much time. It is exactly the kind of gap a patient system knows how to use. Nobody in the family says any of this aloud. Not at dinner, not in the car, not in the private rooms where the day gets folded away. But William watches his daughter the way a man watches weather he has already lived through once. Catherine watches her too, in the specific way of a mother who once had cameras follow her everywhere. She never quite stopped feeling them. Catherine has her own memory of being watched into a role, though hers came later and slower. It stretched across a decade of student photographs and engagement rings before the Crown made it official. She knows what it is to have years of her life narrated by strangers. She does not want that story compressed into a single childhood for her daughter. The crowd at Wimbledon eventually thins. The trophies are packed away, the microphone switched off, the flowers on the podium already wilting in the heat. Cameras drift toward the next match, the next story, the next child worth watching. At home, away from centre court, Charlotte is mostly just a child. She argues about bedtime. She loses at board games and insists on playing again. She has a favorite dog, a favorite blanket, a laugh that has nothing performed about it at all. None of that appears in any briefing document, and none of it ever will. In a small room behind the locker rooms, the family gathers for a few private minutes before the cars arrive. Someone hands Charlotte a glass of water she does not really want. Her brothers argue quietly about nothing in particular, the way siblings do when the day has been too long. For a moment, nobody outside that room is watching at all. Before they leave, Charlotte glances once more toward the empty court through a gap in the curtain. The grass is already being resettled by groundskeepers, quiet now, indifferent to what just happened on it. She does not know why she looks back. She simply does, the way people look back at rooms that have just changed something in them. Charlotte and her mother walk out through a corridor behind Centre Court, the noise falling away behind them with each step. The hallway is cooler than the stands, and their footsteps echo faintly off the polished floor. Charlotte reaches for her mother's hand. Nobody told her to. She is 11, and her mother just stood in front of thousands of strangers. Catherine takes her daughter's hand without looking down, the way mothers do when the gesture needs no thought at all. Her grip tightens slightly around Charlotte's fingers. They keep walking, past a security guard who does not turn his head, toward a door that will close behind them in a moment. Outside, a line of cars waits with engines already running, and a small cluster of photographers stands behind a rope a respectful distance away. Flashes go off anyway, quick and bright against the evening light. Charlotte does not flinch. She has never known a version of leaving a building that did not include that sound. Somewhere behind that door, in a building neither of them can see from the corridor, the institution is already watching the grip. It is measuring the distance between mother and daughter, the way it measures everything else it touches. It is calculating, quietly and without malice,